Alright, we are live, back with our more or less weekly Jund kick. Currently working on something similar to Reed Duke's list from CFB about a month or so ago. Mainly the list we're working on is a little bit different in some regards, mainly lack of a presence of Ragavan, going up to 24 lands, and things of that nature. I've kind of liked the list so far. Like, we've only played it in 2 leagues. One, I think we went 5-0. The other one we went 2-3, but should have gone 3-2 if I had clicked the right card. The main difference between this and Jund's normal Jund Saga, obviously 23-24 land count, no Ragavan and no Unholy Heats in the list. Instead, we're relying on bolts and fatal pushes. The one adjustment I did make from the last time that we played 2 weeks ago was adding a second fatal push over the 4th bolt. Now, that was definitely a reaction to playing Domain Zoo twice. Bolt just isn't all that useful in that matchup in some regards. Whereas Fatal Push at least hits most things, including Territorial Kavu. That was just kind of a nightmare for us in that matchup. Beyond that, 4 Ren, 4 Tarmo, 4 Orcish Bowmaster, 2-2 split on Pyro and Fable. The other difference between this and some of the other lists, first off, we are not playing Gigantha. Second off, we have 2 copies of Shouldered the Apocalypse. I think this card is very important in a lot of matchups, just kind of being your stabilizing force, much as it is out of the decks in the Pioneer, the red-black decks out of the Pioneer format. As far as the Urza Saga package, in addition to 4 Urza Saga, we have 2 Mishra's Baubles, 1 Shadow Spear, 1 Nihil Spellbomb, 1 Haywire Might. Just kind of a nice generic package. Shadow Spear helps with racing. Spellbomb helps with any type of graveyard nonsense, be it anything from Izzet Murktide to Opposing Run-in 6s to Living End, Dredge, those kind of things. Haywire Might just helps to catch a lot of different things, whether it be, opposing Urza Sagas, One Rings, etc. Sideboard, this is where things get a little interesting compared to most Jund lists. 200 near explosives, nothing too fancy there. Good against Saga tokens, good against a bunch of 1-drops, good against Hammer, etc. Rhinos. 2 copies of Chalice of the Void. Primarily there for graveyard-based decks, obviously Living End, Dredge, Reanimator, etc. Pairing that with the second copy of Nihil Spellbomb in our 75. 2 Force of Vigors for any type of Urza Saga, Amulet nonsense. Just being able to blow up artifacts and enchantments is important. Ancient Grudge pairs with them in those style of matchups. 2 Ashioks, a little bit slower of a graveyard hate piece. Mainly targeted towards something like Amulet Titan, but also has some other corner case scenarios you might bring it in. Boil, blue decks, nothing more to say there. Weather the Storm, mainly here for burn, but you could bring it in against other aggressively bent decks potentially. Alpine Moon, mainly against Tron, but there are other utility lands like hitting your opponent's Urza Sagas. Pithing Needle, anything from Planeswalkers to Urza Sagas to other random things this can hit. And then second Haywire Might just kind of rounds out the board in, board out package that Jund likes so much. So, Sid, let's jump in. Let the Jund amount nonsense begin. Sorry, channeling a little CGB there. But I said I'd like to play first. Alright, well, sure, we'll keep it. This is a very Jundy Jund hand, if a Jundy Jund ever did Jund. Only thing we're truly missing is a Tarmogoyf. But, okay, well, we take... I don't even know here. So we're paired up against Mono Black 8-Rack. Deck that I ironically played the other day against John and won, so... Could take one of the two-hand discard spells. Could take the Edict or the Smallpox. I think we're just supposed to take Smallpox and hope to top deck here. Presume our opponent takes Renentix here. Just the card that makes the most sense, I suppose. Alternatively, they could take Inquisition and then planning on edicting whatever we play next turn. Yep, they take Renentix. Surprise, surprise. And that is not exactly the best card to have. I think we'll just cast Inquisition. So their hand was another land. Leave them with the Shouldered's Edict. I'll hold on to Zator's Proving Ground. I'm not sure if we're going to end up cycling this yet, or if we're just going to use it to play for our third land. Opponent has Shouldered's Edict and 2 Swamps and a... Funeral Charm, huh? The heck do I even have for a deck like that? That when the Mentor strikes back. What's up, Foz? How you doing? So what do I even board in this style of matchup? Indeed. Opponent. That's what they were tanking on so long. I should have played Orcish Masters there on end of turn, but is what it is. I was trying to figure out what they were tanking for so long. It was what to play with their Pithing Needle. Well, it's absurd how much... Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of cards that can deal with Urza Saga, but it's absurd how much for a relatively little investment that one card can kind of take over a game. Like, Urza Saga is literally... Oh, the ads are random. Well, the Shoulder's Edict. Yep. Funny part is we know they have an Urborg in hand. So they're probably holding it for... what's the name of the card? Raven's Crime. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great card to top deck right now. That said, I did watch Merfolk absolutely disassemble one, or an Urza Saga, with like Merfolk, Trickster, Harbinger, Merfolk Harbinger, or whatever the heck the card's name is. So. Gonna put this in play. Yes, leaving this in our hand could potentially help if our opponent top decked a like the Rack or Shrieking Affliction, but no, Tashawn's Tidebinder ironically didn't play into the equation with that one, but it certainly would also have hurt. I mean, our opponent could Raven's Crime or Shouldered Array, sure. But Urza Saga just kind of carries the day. So, The weird part about 8-rack is some versions have no creatures whatsoever. Other versions have that scam, the scam grief package, Orcish Bowmasters. So it's kind of hard to like know exactly which cards to leave in and leave out. Haywire Might is a decent hedge against our opponent having Urza, because we didn't see Urza Saga and we didn't see Demo Field or Field of Ruin. So we don't know if our opponent has Urza Saga. We can kind of presume that they do. Engineered Explosives are cards we could bring in. Ancient Grudge I think is fine. Haywire Might is fine. Go down the Nihil Spellbomb. And then the only other card I think I would consider bringing in would be the Ashiok. But I don't... I guess I would bring it in over like Thoughtseize. Because I don't know how many of these like Inquisition Thoughtseize effects I want to leave in my deck. Force of Vigor. Maybe we'll just bring in the Spell Bombs just as cantrips. Hey Augie, thanks so much for the gifted subs. Greatly appreciated. I really hope that some way, somehow, those videos helped with your RC prep. I think against them, you just keep like any reasonable hand, because this hand's going to get shredded by Thoughtseize and Inquisition and Smallpox and all that fun stuff. So. Gonna play this out on one. They don't have too many ways to punish us for playing this out, unless they are splashing a color that we didn't see. So okay, so they do in fact have Urza's Saga. Oh, it's all good. I saw your gifted subs. I greatly appreciate that. With a... Well... As much as I hate to do this, No, Foz. I just literally took his RC list and played several leagues with it. Now, you both have done such, like, huge amounts for the channel over the last several months, especially. It's like, if either one of you ask me to, work on a deck, I'm not going to even be like, yeah, only if you do, pay X, do this, do that. It's like, you both have contributed so much. Some ways, like Jan, O'Doyle, even, I would say to a certain extent, Space Marine, but Space Marine has gotten enough kind of freebies over the years. Yeah, I would consider Legacy. If you have something that honestly needs worked on. So... do I get here? A Shadow Spear. I haven't played Legacy in a while, Jan. I think my go-to default deck is usually it's usually just Reanimator because I touch the format so little, honestly. When doesn't Enchantress need help? Yeah, I tend to stick to, unfortunately, the simpler decks of formats and decks that get through things quickly. So Reanimator kind of fits the bill in Legacy in that regard. Like, I can play decks like Jund, I can play decks like 8-Rack, even Omnath on occasion, but... let me guess. They're going to name Engineered Explosives. Nope, Shadow Spear. Okay. Not exactly the card I was expecting them to name. I'll get back to that thought in a second there. Foz. So I think what we do here is play a run in 6, pick up Urza Saga. Urza Saga. Play Haywire Might. Then pass the turn. See what our opponent does. I have a little bit of experience with Infect in Modern. I don't think I have any experience with it in Legacy. Yeah, you know I've tried Burn in Legacy. It's been on the channel here and there. I think I may have taken some of it down, but yeah, I've played Burn in Legacy. Not in a while, but I have played Burn in Legacy. I have no idea what our opponent takes here. Like, if they have a way to kill Run, they'll probably take Run. If they are afraid of me shutting down the Mishra's factory, okay, so they take Alpine Moon. So they might have an Urza Saga. Opponent trying to grind through. And they're going to hit us for a lot this turn. So they're going to hit us for 5. Mishra's factory. Would it be playable? Yes. Would it be dangerous? Probably. I could probably see like some type of Price of Progress style effect. Being printed into Modern, but it would probably be like one red. It's either one red sorcery with a 2 damage clause, or one red instant with like 1 damage per thing. Jan, I don't know. Like, I think ruined is a strong word. I think warped, absolutely. But even if you look at the microcosm of Modern versus, say, Pioneer, a lot of the similar things have happened, even though there have been no cards printed into... Well, Hogak, but you got to remember, for a long time, people thought Renin 6 was overpowered. There were a couple other cards from MH1, but mainly Wrenn and 6, people thought were too powerful for the format. Now, MH2 brought some risky cards like Fury, Grief, those kind of cards. But the format always coalesces around the top decks. Like, it's just going to. It's just a matter of, like, if you look at the Pioneer format, yes, you can theoretically play, say, any of 8 to 10 decks and expect to do well in the Pioneer format. But Pioneer is, with Amalia currently in the format, Pioneer aggro decks are not viable. For a slightly different reason than they're not viable in Modern. I'll give you that much. But okay, obviously we're up against some type of, oh boy, okay, sure. Opponent with a, how do I put this generously? With a very questionable keep? I guess they were hoping on Shredder Bobble to kind of get them there. Oh, I completely agree that my deck has a bunch of stuff from the specialty sets. But if you don't add cards from the specialty sets, your deck doesn't do anything. Wanted to make this trade if my opponent is. So I would normally bomb my opponent's graveyard here, but I literally don't care about a 3/3 flyer. And ironically, there are no instants or sorceries in my opponent's graveyard currently. Alright, we're going to fetch basic forest here. So my opponent have a Tashana's here. I know we're not getting anything off of this, but I just want their graveyard nuked, make their Murktide basically useless. I mean, I know they're doing it to fuel their Murktide growth, and I'm not saying that Murktide is not a threat here, because it certainly is. But it's hilarious to see a Mishra's Bauble get spell pierced. Oh, I'm not arguing that it works. It's just not a card I ever expected to see to get spell pierced out of. Okay, which cards are we actually interested in against them? So we figure their main weapon against us outside of normal magic is probably Blood Moon, so we probably want Haywire Might. Nihil Spellbomb, maybe. Pithing Needle, they don't really have anything. Ancient Grudge, not really. Weather the Storm, borderline card. Ashiok. Figure their deck's a little too fast. Leyline of the Void, possibly. Engineered Explosives, possibly. I think we take the Thoughtseizes out. Maybe a couple of the Inquisitions. Well, oh yeah, we probably won't boil, huh? Just literally Mishra's Bauble out. Let's go with the 61 card special. Okay, so Jan, to answer your question, both MH1 and MH2, if you look at the top decks in the format, we've got a mulligan this one. We have no red sources. Well, we have a red and a green source. So we could play Wrenn and 6. This hand just doesn't do much else without drawing a fetch land. So this hand is terribly vulnerable to Blood Moon, but I do think we keep it. Putting back Swamp. Well, Hive Mind is a different story there. But no, there aren't. If you look at the modern format in general, okay, Yawgmoth, I'm pretty sure has MH2 cards in it. Because I think Yawgmoth itself is an MH2 card, if I'm not mistaken. Amulet obviously has all kinds of MH1, MH2 cards in it. So whatever we play here is likely to get counterspelled. Do I even play anything here? I think we just pass, honestly. Looks like they may just... Like, I feel if they're on the Blood Moon plan, they would have just fetched Blood Island there. Do you have Spell Pierce? That's kind of the scenario I was thinking of exactly. I'm going to be very surprised if our opponent had the discipline to not Spell Pierce their Ragavan being killed to hold up for a run in 6. That would have been... I would have been very much amazed by that. So whatever we played there was going to get killed by Unholy Heat. That's fine. We have another monkey. No, this is Murktide Regent. Okay. Right on time, my friend. Right on time. We'll keep it. Although I think next turn is going to be... Tarmogoyf plus... Just going to fetch Basic Mountain here. Tarmadoof. Opponent gets to put us to 5. They have 2 bolts to finish us. Doesn't look like it. Kashana's? Guess if they have Subtlety plus Bolt, we're dead. Yeah, that'd be 11 exactly. This. Okay, yep. Okay. Why would you EE on 1 there? Sure. Alright, but just looking at the top decks in Modern. Crashing Footfalls. Modern Horizons card. Rakdos Scam. Obviously Modern Horizons cards. Yawgmoth. The namesake card is... It's Modern Horizons, right? Yeah, Modern Horizons 1 and Grist Modern Horizons 2. Murktide. Obviously most of their threats are Modern Horizons 1 and 2. Amulet Titan. The One Ring, basically Lord of the Rings... Basically Modern Horizons 2.5. Dryad, I believe. Nope, that's actually Theros. So I guess technically Amulet's like the closest thing to not needing Modern Horizons cards. But it has Urza Saga, which made it stupid. Living End has Shardless Agent. Omnath has Renin 6. Solitude. So most of the like top decks play some number of Horizons cards. Yeah, I still making their money, everybody else losing investments. Yeah. So okay. Let's take Ancient Stirrings. I don't know that we're beating our opponent if they have a reasonable, or if they draw a second land, so. Still think they should probably play the Welding Jar out, but. Well, that's one no way to win a game. Probably don't want Nihil Spellbomb in this matchup. Mishra's Baubles are fine, but a bit of filler. Don't really want Thoughtseize in this matchup. Bowmasters is kind of middling. Probably want Alpine Moon in against opposing Urza's Sagas. So. Jundum out, Jundum out. This hand's mana's awkward. I think we'll go and mulligan here. The sand isn't great, but at least it has okay mana. The forest back, actually. Zbuzz. Get the Zabaz off the battlefield before they get like a Ravager or something down. Yeah, normally Bowmaster's is not particularly good in this matchup. In fact, I think we boarded out what, 2 of them? Mm-hmm. Zabaz and Natural State. Yeah, I don't know, Foz. Why I constantly end up with red shirts on, I don't know.
Because it's your favorite.
No, it's not.
Apparently it is when you're live streaming.
Okay, so fetch basic mountain. Force our opponent to regenerate there. Mm-hmm. You know, I should have brought in Leyline because it prevents the death triggers from happening. Should have remembered that lesson from playing Scam. Because then this death trigger does nothing. This death trigger does nothing. So the reason I named Zabaz is I don't want our opponent popping this and getting a bunch of flyers. If they want to beat us down on the ground, more power to them. They could have popped this Hangerback Walker and the Zabaz itself to make an absurd amount of sideboard tech against Scales. I don't know if there's a good one. Brotherhood's End might be the best. Gonna say, if you're just on Boros, Brotherhood's End, if you're splashing a small amount of green, Dereth helps, but the Scales matchup's just rough regardless. I'm definitely blocking here. Taking 6. Good old Beseju. One's going to blow up their own Hangerback Walker. They don't. Interesting. All players draw a card. Well, it should activate Nexus. Or I guess they can do that. Alright, we're still dead. 2 Xaxes here. And what is that, Foz? Inquisition out, Inquisition out, Inquisition out. Bowmasters in, question mark. Equal 2330. Not familiar with that one. Wow, Foz, just wow. That's not even, oh, 2320. I thought you said 2330. I'm like, 2330 is not right. Well, 2320 ain't any better. Yeah, we'll try it. Foz, you're not right sometimes. Oh, I'm sure it is. Green card? Mm-hmm. Opponent now gets to blank our Ren, pretty much. Wait, what? No, they don't even need it now. Okay, sure, whatever. I think they're still tilted about not being able to react to Ravager getting blown up. So, Ballista or Hangerback Walker. Okay. Question becomes, do I play Tarmogoyf, or do I use Tarmogoyf, or do I use... I guess we just take care of this. I mean, to be fair, two of the lands they drew were from the Sejus, so... I think our opponent is feasting on a high sodium diet. Okay, our opponent is just salting off, so we could have was going to point out that some of their lands were from Boseiju, but yeah, whatever. They made a number of misplays by auto passing. They could have, as Foz pointed out, they could have animated their Nexus to save their Dorko, etc. But I'll be right back in 1 second. Yeah, I was going to say, they had a lot of misplays just because they're either frustration or tired or whatever.
There's actually somebody watching Overflow Night from Finland. It's okay. Tomorrow school.
Nice. Maybe one of these days you can actually rest.
I did.
Okay. Yeah, we all get emotional sometimes with Magic, so I know I've certainly tilted off and made poor plays because I'm frustrated. So. I also know somebody else in my household who sometimes gets a little salty during Magic gameplay. But but so far we've beaten Pox. Well, 8 Rock, but technically Pox, Murktide, and Hardened Scales. Casual Commander. Huge Doctor Who fan for one deck, and her other deck was suggested by my brother because she likes complicated thought processes, and most of my decks are too simplistic for her. So, she has 2 of her own commander decks, and we play about once a week. So. 3 of each basic land in a pack. That's your deck. I've seen similar, like, casual games. That's an interesting way of playing Magic. Huh. That's a lot of... We're up against Gigantha the Wellspring. So, Mirror Match or Tron? I'm curious which. We'll keep it. I mean, it's a reasonable interaction hand plus... Okay, so none of the above? Question mark? Guess this could be Jun with a weird fetch land. Wait a sec. Okay. So, Zoo maybe? Guess we get Stomping Ground here. Feel like we're up against Zoo. Yep. Alright, let's take a peek at what you got. Bolt, Nakatl, Reprieve. So it looks like we're up against possibly Manguchi's variant of the deck. Problem is we could get burned out before we do anything. Get Bolt to the face, take 3, Bolt to the face. We'll be at 6 before we can even make our first construct. Alrighty then. At least we know all the cards. So we are risking dying to Bolt here, but they have already fired off 2 bolts, so. Badly mistapped there. Why would you shock in there? Pick up Gigantha, hold up Reprieve. They were pretty out of their hand one way or another. Of course, they drew Leyland Binding. Attacking. Interesting. I guess we're dead to 2 Tribal Flames. Okay, we definitely want these 2. Probably want Weather the Storm. No. No. Middling. No. Doesn't seem like they're on the Scion of Draco build. But Haywire Might doesn't do much. Does Pithing Needle ain't get anything out of them? Not really. I think I probably want to get these Thoughtseizes out of my deck. Well, this is certainly a interesting hand. Can one the coddle? Yep. Alright, so what are we grabbing here? Trying to minimize damage if at all possible. Blood Crypt. I think we do go ahead and Inquisition here. Opponent with an... Okay, so they're on the Cascade version. just pass. I don't... Like, our opponent certainly could have drawn something we care about here, but... Of course. And the frustrating part is we don't know if they just top deck that or if that was something we could have inquisitioned away. Actually pitched Leyline Binding. I'm kind of surprised. Okay, so they do have Scion in their deck. Ancient Grudge in. These Bowmasters can go right out. Leaving the Haywire Mites for Leyline Bindings. Well, that and Zoo doesn't usually play run. The version of Zoo we're up against is probably Nikado Ragavan, Nishoba, Territorial Kavu, Sign of Draco, and Shardless Agent, backed up by Bolt, Reprieve, and Leyline Binding. Okay, so take the Draco. Plan the Tarmogoyf out. Hopefully they... Like, I don't even care if they Leyline Binding this, because we can get it back with... Haywire Mite. Sure. Alright, second fatal push coming up clutch against the matchup we lost last time. So, I think we lost to twice twice last time. Now here comes the curse of the red shirt. Get that Star Trek nonsense out of here. Can we risk this hand? I guess hand's literally anything, so we'll try it. So, rhinos, or are we up against living end? Yep. Good old-fashioned Murktide again. His land is your land, his land is my land. Stern Scolding, Bolt, Unholy Heat. don't currently care about Stern Scolding. How's that worded exactly? Counter target creature spell, power, toughness 2 or less. Bolt, Unholy Heat. I did actually make one very large mistake here. I was trying to minimize damage and fetch this basic swamp. However, I think we just pass here. The curse. Yeah. So the opponent will have to take a game action before they can actually cast Murktide. They're either going to have to bolt me on end step or crack a fetch land. So after this resolves, we're going to go ahead and deal away their graveyard. We know their hand is Murktide, Stern Scolding, and then whatever they're drawing here. Which is a land, apparently. Funny part is we're almost out of things to get with our Urza Sagas. Boil comes in. Haywire Might comes in. Nihil Spellbomb comes in. No. Pithing Needle, no. Weather the Storm, not really. could conceivably bring in Ashiok, but ley lines could come in. EEs could come in. Out. Yeah, let's try a 61 card special. Does this hand have enough going for it to risk keeping on the draw? Double Shouldered is kind of a mulligan on the draw because they don't interact with the early point of the game. Would this be a good enough 5-card hand? If we drew another fetch land, this run in 6 becomes very good. Nihil Spellbomb can delay Murktide and can kind of nullify DRC for a little bit. However, we don't have any interaction for early creatures other than run in 6, and we need a fetch land to draw it, so I don't think we can keep this hand. This hand is much better. Bring back Boil for now. Obviously, this hand is vulnerable as heck to Blood Moon, but okay, a little less so now. I don't like shocking this in, like I really don't, but if our opponent does something stupid here, like Dash and Monkey, I want to be prepared. I know. Terrible song. Be prepared. Okay. EI is fine. Augie, I will get to your question in 1 second. I'm certainly risking a lot with Run in 6 here. Spell Pierce gets us, Subtlety gets us. The short answer becomes, what do you want to beat? If you're fine with the 4/4/4 setup in the main deck, I think the main deck is pretty good. I think the question becomes is, what are you willing to forego some of your sideboard options against, and what are you dead set on beating? Murktide. Smells like a murky murk. Just want a 5/5. Problem is, we're not beating a Stern Scolding with this, and we're not beating a Spell Pierce. So start by casting Bowmasters. Try bolting it. Sure. As far as the sideboard, it comes down to how many slots do you want for Cascade, how many slots do you want for Hardened Scales, etc. Like, at the end of the day, unfortunately, you're just not going to beat everything. That's unfortunately just how Modern works. If you split the cards between your main and side, then that frees up 2 more slots for Brotherhood's End or Sanctifier and Beck. And then, generally speaking, if you're playing against one or the other, you're going to be able to board one of them out. So, for instance, if you're playing against Amulet, you'll be able to board Eidolon out, leave whatchamacallit in. I think if you go the 2-2 split, that frees up 2 spots. What I would almost consider doing would be, you still want another card. If you want, I'll finish up here a thought here in a second. As far as Jund, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with a deck that's gone 5-0, 3-2, or 5-0, 2-3, should have been 3-2, 5-0. So it's kind of hard to argue with those results. The one change I was happy with was Fatal Push. The rest of the deck, I think, is fairly well balanced. And I definitely want to do some more testing. And that's just kind of the TLDR with the deck. Back to your question, Augie. If you split these 2 Eidolons and move 2 Vortices to your main deck. If you want to broaden what you're capable of doing, depending on your boarding configuration, you could easily cut a Path to Exile and get... I don't know how much Scam is going to show up, so I can't say for certain. But if you absolutely want to beat Scam, maybe a 3rd Sanctifier would be in line. Maybe 1 or 2 Brotherhood's End. Brotherhood's End would also theoretically help against Yawgmoth to a certain degree. Doesn't kill everything in Yawg, but it certainly like sweeps some of their lesser stuff and can get like so Brotherhood's End would help against Hammer, Hardened Scales, potentially be an okay card against Yawg, and could help against some random tribal deck like Merfolk, Elves, those kind of things. So if you look at your if you're good with 2 Sanctifier against Scam, then if you want to leave your 3rd path in, leave your 3rd path in. Honestly, I'd probably still consider trimming a path. Get 2 Brotherhood's Ends in and 1 other anti-Cascade card. 2 Brotherhood's Ends in, with the 2 slots you freed up would be perfectly fine. And if you're flexible enough to get the 3rd path out, you could get another Chalice or another Vortex on the side. And that would give you more flexibility against the artifact decks that you're trying to game for a little bit. That would give you more flexibility against the Cascade decks. Would give you a little bit of outside insurance against some random tribal deck or some random, I haven't tested against Yawg, so I can't say it's good against Yawg, but it would give you outside utility against Hammer, outside utility against Hardened Scales, and would give you outside utility against just random run you over decks, like say Boros Convoke showing up, or Elves, Goblins. There's a number of utility where Brotherhood's End could be a solid card if you have access to it. I don't know. But yeah, that'd be my thing, is I would get the 2 Brotherhood's Ends in the deck, and then if you want a little bit more anti-scam, not anti-scam, anti-cascade / anti-control nonsense, that flex slot, use a Firecraft, Roiling Vortex, or a Chalice to get a little bit more hate against life gain, cascade kind of things. So that would probably be the TLDR. I think the main deck's perfectly fine. Like, it's pretty stock burn, especially if you do the 2-2 split on Eidolon and Vortex, and then sliding them to the main deck would give you a little bit more flexibility, and that would still leave you 2 Path, 2 Firecraft. Well, you can't just think about Dingo, but Hammer is a deck that might show up. Hardened Scales has had a reasonable weekend. It might show up. So 2 Brotherhood's Ends, you could do worse. That's just kind of my 2 cents on things. I hope that helps. Like, if you wanted to free up those slots, moving those 2 Eidolons out of the main deck, moving 2 of the Vortexes to the main, that frees up the 2 Brotherhood's End slots. And then the only other card that I would consider maybe sliding out would be 1 of the Pass, and then that leaves you a flex spot for a Firecraft, another anti-Cascade card, or whatever. That would be my thoughts. And, you know, Brotherhood's End doesn't necessarily kill your Swiss Spears, especially if you have like another spell to play before it. So while it is, yes, a defensive card, and Burn's not usually great with defensive cards, it's something that could buy you enough time, a la a card like Ensnaring Bridge, but maybe being slightly better for the meta than Ensnaring Bridge would be. Because a lot of the decks that Ensnaring Bridge is decent against have other backup plans to attack around it. So, I hope that helps. And just, you know, being randomly good against any type of random Urza Saga deck you might run into. Well, if you move the 2 Vortexes to the main, and you cut that path, you have 3 slots to play with. Sorry. Oh, that's fine, Augie. I wanted to make sure to give you, quote-unquote, your money's worth before I ended the stream. So, but yeah. I think that would be my best advice, is if you're willing to do the 2-2 split Brotherhood's Ends, and then whatever third card you want for that flex slot, whether it be a Firecraft for the Murktide Rhinos, Living End, Omnath matchups, whether it be another anti-Cascade card for Living End Rhinos, you know, and I also don't know like what cards you have access to, like if you have access to multiple chalices, you know, that unfortunately this close to the thing, it's unfortunately kind of relevant what your card availability is. So, yeah, that'd kind of be my advice. So, I certainly wish you well. Let me know either via Twitch or my email how you're doing this weekend. I really hope Burn performs well for you. I know it's not the most well-positioned deck in the format, but then again, I also don't know how well people are going to be prepared for it either. So, hopefully, unfortunately with the open deck list, that's a little rough. But I certainly hope you do well, man. And I want to thank everybody for hanging out today, whether it be Janshavik, Foz, Augie. Don't even know who else has been chilling out tonight. I think my brother might have been on at some point without saying anything, etc. So, all right, that's a pretty good start to a. Good luck, Augie. But pretty good start to the February month so far. Got a 5-0. Helped a Burn brother out with his RC prep, and yeah, thanks for everybody for hanging out. And once again, if you're seeing this on YouTube later, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you like John content, if you like Burn content, don't forget to check out MTG Nexus Red, where I do at least one Burn League a week. And hope to see you for next stream.